observe that when we were talking about market economy, we actually assume that the market is free. Now, free from any sort of regulation or restriction or other interventions. So in that free market, the buyers and consumers, the buyers or consumers, and on and the sailors or producers, they interact, they participate, and the market itself determine the market price, the equilibrium price at which we saw some sort of transactions and trade-offs, quantities being sold and bought. So now tax. So I'm sure that you have heard the term tax before. It's a very common term in our daily life. We come across it in many discussions. We know one of the sources of revenue for government is taxation, like taxes. So now, when there is an intervention or when the policymakers design some sort of policies which works as a regulation on the market, then we can, just for simplicity, we can regard those sort of things as a tax. And also, there's another thing beside tax that is called um, price control. Price controls. So there are two types of price controls. Let's say price ceiling and price floor. So one of the way of um, intervention is, of course, tax. Another way you can say is like the price controlling, where the authority can fix the maximum price and the minimum price. So both of these are actually examples of restrictions. So when we are talking about price ceiling, we say that at this price, this is the maximum price level, or this is the maximum price supplier can charge for a particular good. And for the price floor, that this reflects the minimum price. Anyways, we'll actually explore the concept of tax only here. So when tax is imposed on a market, it reduces the overall quantity that will be sold in the market. We'll see an example later on, and we will illustrate this graphically. So, and also, as I said, the government earns money from taxes, right? So when they impose the tax, they expect to earn something from it. So the monetary amount of tax collected is basically the tax revenue. Now, tax can be imposed on both buyers or sellers. However, it doesn't really matter on whom it is imposed, because both the buyers and sellers would be affected in the market. Now, if tax is levied on buyers, the demand curve shifts downwards. And if it is imposed on sellers, the supply curve shifts upwards or leftwards. I mean, there's a negative shift in the supply curve if the tax is imposed on the sellers, and the demand curve shift downwards for the buyers if the tax is particularly imposed on them. So let's take a look at this graph. So here, this is a free market. So this is an example of free market where we see the equilibrium price. This is the market price. And this is price quantity, the demand curve, the supply curve, right? So we discussed this part numerous times already, and so there's nothing else to add here. But for some reason, let's say tax